Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. Let's see who is in. Flora Candia, Oliver Henry, Alan Holman, Intrepid, Mandela 108, welcome. Nagraza Giel, I never can figure out how to say that one. Bill White, Russell Boyles, Life Matrix, welcome. Shari D is in. Moonlit Illusion, Lena Blackheart, The California and Mr. Biffle Show, Alan Holman, Silver E55, John Bernard Shaw, David Cook, Mandela 108. Okay, a whole bunch of people just showed. I think that's everybody. That's everybody up till there. Okay, so the thumbnail. Saw this one on Reddit, WTF. I'm going to make it larger. Okay, so it was titled The Missing Link. And you've got this fish that basically is standing on its flippers. That was the weirdest part. And it's breathing. Apparently, it has voluntarily standing here. They weren't real clear on like if somebody took it out of the water and plunked it there. Either way, it's standing on its flippers, so and the water's right here. It's not trying to get there, and I'm just going to play a short clip of this. So there he is. He's basically sitting there. He's almost like wagging his tail, which is weird too. I'll replay that last bit. It's the weird part is you see the tail moving. Okay, so what is this thing? This one's a trip. Not only does it breathe air outside of the water. Oh, no. Not only does it walk on its flippers. Oh, no. And it's standing on snow. Not a big deal for this guy. Not only is it looks like the missing link. Yes, it does. But let's see what else we have going on for this guy. Now, I was looking this one up. Wow, somebody just gave me $19.99. Thank you, Russell Boyles. Appreciate that. That is good catch. Pardon the pun here. Okay, this guy flipped me out because I was looking it up, and they kept saying, "Oh, well, they don't need oxygen." I'm like, "What do you mean? They're a fish. It's a carp, basically. It's called Crucian carp." Crucian, carp, C-A-R-P. And there's all these vague statements how it doesn't need oxygen. I'm like, it's a fish. I mean, I'm thinking, what do they mean? It can survive in low oxygen, or it can breathe oxygen from the air instead of the water? No, they literally mean it doesn't require oxygen. Okay, so... And it has two alternate methods to breathe. Not just one. Two. All right. Let's see. Where did I have this? This fish can change the structure of its gills to avoid becoming anoxic. In addition, its blood has a much higher affinity for oxygen than other vertebrates. Okay, that's not super weird yet. All right, now it gets weirder. And it makes tranquilizers and produces alcohol when oxygen supplies are limited. So it both makes tranquilizers. I don't understand why that's sort of weird. It makes tranquilizers. Do they mean that it goes into a torpor? That would be a normal way to say it. It goes into a low metabolism state. But no, it makes tranquilizers. It's such a weird thing to say. All right, and then it produces alcohol. Okay, now we're getting weird. These mechanisms allow the fish to survive for days or even months without oxygen. depending on the temperature, whilst still maintaining physical activity. So it's not going into a suspended state. All right, darn it, this is not the exact one I wanted to save. Okay, where was that now? Maybe it was on the wiki. Crucian carp. It might have been on the... I thought I had the right place saved, but I don't see what I wanted to remember on here. Oh, here, I think it was on physiology. Okay. During the summer, the fish also may survive... Okay, wait. Okay. Can survive for considerable periods by anaerobic respiration with ethanol as the major metabolic end product. So it has this anaerobic respiration that has... I'm not a super expert on breathing non-oxygen, but basically... when I was growing up, anaerobic respiration was reserved for like bacteria. And the reason they said that was because they said it's too inefficient for a larger creature. And that's why humans and anything larger than a bacteria basically had to breathe oxygen, because we needed that extra power. It was just anaerobic respiration was too wimpy. Well, apparently now we've got this whole fish, and these are fairly big carp. I think they said they get to be like 4 feet or something. I could check that in a minute. That can survive for considerable periods, weeks, months, on anaerobic respiration. And they're not in a total torpor state. They're saying that they still have physical activity. All right, now if that wasn't weird enough, okay, that's the summertime. All right, no, that was the wintertime. The wintertime, it can survive by anaerobic respiration. Now, during the summer, the fish also may survive. Let's see, wait. Okay, I'm getting confused. In the winter, he changes phenotype. So he becomes like another breathing style of creature that can sustain himself with fermentation as a substitute for respiration for several weeks on end. So during one season, he can do anaerobic respiration with ethanol, and then the other season, he can do fermentation as a substitute for respiration. So this fish has 3 ways to breathe. Three. Okay. Oxygen, this anaerobic respiration with ethanol, or fermentation. And any of these 3 ways, it can go for like weeks, apparently. Experimentally, the fish has been maintained under anoxic conditions for 140 days. Anoxia can be tolerated longest in the coldest water, even down to 0 degrees C. All right, so the thing can go down to freezing water because colder conditions have lower metabolic rate. Alcohol production occurs mainly in the muscle tissues, but also in the liver, where the process is thought to have originated. Similarly, goldfish can produce alcohol in muscle tissues, but at a much more limited extent. Anyway, I'm not a total chemist here, but this is weird business. 3 ways to breathe. 3. I know for a fact that there was no anaerobic respiration in any kind of larger animal. I have certainly never heard of fermentation breathing in any larger animal besides bacteria. These are not that rare a fish, okay? They're a sport fishing breed. Not that I've ever heard of them. These Crucian carp. So there's a whole thing on sports fishing these things. So they're not rare because they don't let you sport fish a rare animal. This is weird business. All right, so 3 ways to breathe, 2 of which I have never heard of anything besides a bacteria or, a microbe or something using. And it stands on its fins. It's just weird. Weird. All right. It says that all right. My signal's not that great. Okay, let's see what you guys are up to. Where is this located at? Any widely distributed European species ranging from England to Russia, as far north as the Arctic Circle, in the Scandinavian countries, as far south as central France and the Black Sea. Habitat includes lakes, ponds, slow-moving rivers. Has been established that the fish is native to England and not introduced. Oh, so it's you people, you UK people, who are to blame for the Crucian carp, according to this story. See, how big is that guy anyway? Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't say there. Medium-sized cyprinid, 15 centimeters in body, rarely exceeds 3 kilograms. That's like a pound and a bit. Actually, that's kind of puny for a sports fishing breed, but still, that's a pound and a bit. And I'd be curious to see what other creatures show up. I really should have looked into this because I think somewhere it said that this weird breathing was rare. So that means there's probably some other creatures with this weird breathing option now. Anyway, trip me out. There's no freaking way. 3 ways. It's not just 2. They're going for the whole enchilada on this fish. Can a living thing be alive without O2? Well, I mean, I'm sure there's somewhere there's oxygen in it, but yes, I mean, when they found those black smokers, like those geothermal vents, I don't know when officially in the 70s, 80s, they found those. So you don't have to breathe oxygen, but it was, let me think. So there was a whole ecosystem that survived off those. I'm trying to remember. That might have been the first ones. They had an alternate energy source, but it wasn't fermentation. I don't think it was the alcohol. Before that, they thought everything required oxygen. Then it was just those. That's why it was a big deal. I mean, if they had this Crucian carp out there that could do 3 ways of breathing, then the geothermal vents would have not been a big deal. We have less oxygen in the air now. Yeah, the lungs are different. They're smaller. Everything's different. A lot more nitrogen. We always had nitrogen, but we have a ton of nitrogen. It used to be just like few percent nitrogen. Fermentation, like how wine does. Yeah. I don't ask me to explain it. I'm not a chemist. You'd have to look that up, but I don't get how how they produce the alcohol, and then that must release some kind of energy form, some kind of electrons are released or something. I didn't really look at it because I don't really understand those things, so I can't really explain it that well, but carp has been there's a million carp everywhere. Goldfish or carp. It's not that there's carp that's weird. It's that there's a carp that stands on its fins and can breathe using fermentation or anaerobic alcohol breathing or oxygen. That is what is weird. Carp is not that weird. Although there are some very large, strange-looking carp, in recent years that I do not remember existing. 8 feet freaking long and stuff, but carp are a problem fish. They brought them here to eat them, and no one would because they are too bony. The whole storyline, a lot of these new creatures show up. They never existed, and they're called invasive, like these crazy worms. The crazy worms are invading. I don't really even buy any of the storylines anymore. I think that a lot of them, All the time there's these new invasive creatures that are going to destroy all the habitat, and you know what? They never do. They never do. We just get more and more creatures. There's always this big story that they're going to ruin everything. They never do. There's always a new disease that's going to wipe, like the bark beetle came and it was going to wipe out all the pine trees. A few trees died and all the rest are fine. Occasionally a tree dies, but it didn't wipe out all the pine trees. Just one of hundreds of examples. So I just wouldn't worry about I don't worry about the invasive species anymore. I mean, obviously I'm not going to deliberately release something that is not recommended just to be on the safe side, but so the alcohol is actually a method of breathing. I know what your story sounds more logical, that this creature is using this alcohol as some kind of breathing method. It's not using it just to stay warm. It's actually breathing. It's got instead of breathing oxygen, because they're saying there's not enough oxygen in the water, it's actually has 3 ways to breathe. It can breathe with oxygen like a normal fish, or it can breathe fermentation, or it can breathe using this anaerobic alcohol thing. I mean, it's so weird that it's hard to wrap your brain around it. I mean, it really is. So somehow I don't know. Yeah, what is it breathing? I don't know. Somehow it's producing alcohol and then breathing, using that like as its energy source, basically. They're literally saying it survives without oxygen. It's getting its energy some alternate way, and it has 2 options. It can either do fermentation with alcohol, or it can do anaerobic way. I don't know. It's confusing. It can do the anaerobic or it can do the fermentation. Those are its 2 choices. It does one in the summer, and then it does the other in the winter, and it changes phenotypes. Like it actually changes its gill structure. So apparently one is easier to do in the winter and one is easier to do in the summer. It's weird. Really, really weird. And it stands on its fins. Ha ha ha. It's just in case you didn't think it was weird enough. Damn, I'm trying to read and this keeps jumping on me. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that broom thing. That's next. Maybe carp will age into things like the old Japanese mythology. You know, that's interesting because they are getting the giant, ridiculous barbells or whatever, however they call them. Catfish-looking things. And yeah, I'm going to get into the standing brooms. It's the next one on there. NASA explains. Yep. Microbes living near underwater volcanoes known for not needing O2, but big animals, yeah, exactly. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've already got animals 2 different ways it can breathe. So many animals getting higher survivability. Yes, very much a trend in the current timeline. Wonder if they can sense something we don't and are preparing in some way. That is a common way to take that. There's 2 ways. You can take the negative way or you can take the positive way. You could say, oh, there's a coming disaster and we'll all need to survive, and so we all have to be stronger. Or you could just say, look, we are a stronger, better species because we're evolving. You pick your poison on that one. I prefer the second one. My granddad had carp growing up, but never this big or odd. There's like a million kinds of carp in the current timeline. Some of them are like 6 feet long or more. Craziness. They're just not colored koi fish. There's a bunch of weird like giant carp now too, though. There's a bunch with weird really big. I've had this on before. There's some really big carp. Some of them do have weird colors. So they're yellow, all these different things. People are like, oh, people don't like to eat carp because they're bony. Well, I mean, once a fish gets that big, I mean, it's not like it has twice as many bones in it. It's still going to have the same number. I mean, look at that. Won't even fit in the net. All different kind. Little weird looking guy there. Yeah, fish. Oh my goodness, there's so many weird fish now. All right, so that's one weird thing. All right, let's get on. I've got a lot to cover, Try not to talk too much. The famous freak out over the broomstick challenge. A lot of people came forward going, this is super weird, immediately. And that is the first thing I said when I saw it. I think the first person alive, so, reconnected. Somebody on Reddit looked at this and they immediately just said what I was thinking, which is this is possibly soft disclosure of new physics that we basically just have. I mean, I've talked about this before. I think I see trucks that can just zoom like around like it's a roller coaster and they're not attached. Didn't have that in my old timeline 20 years ago. A truck couldn't go a loop-de-loop just by driving really fast or driving around and around inside a sphere. People are jumping higher, acrobats. This kind of explains why so many records are broken all the time. People just assume it's better training, but I think that we really are just upgrading. So I think that's part of it. We just look different. We have different muscles. Our back structure is different. And we see the planes and airplanes, the structure of the wings are different. There's inventions that didn't exist before. We see that the gaseous content of the atmosphere is different. We see different cloud formations and different water formations. We see lizards that can walk on water by running really fast. It used to just be insects that could do that. Physics is different, and I think this is part of it. I think this is soft disclosure. I know it may sound out crazy, but I think I call it like when the Mandela is shopping around the new reality. They're letting you know. That's my opinion anyway. I mean, obviously, not many people actually tried to stand up their brooms in the old days, but I would think that at least some people would have noticed by now that brooms would stand up if they would. So anyway, yeah, weird. Hate the taste of carps. I don't know if I've ever tasted a carp, actually. Before there was bison alone. Now there's northern tree bison, plains bison, European bison. Yeah, I've covered that one before. That one was on a few weeks ago, all the million. A lot of the creatures have split. There used to be just one species. Now there's like five. They're seen as a nuisance fish in the local man-made lake and never really understood the extreme dislike towards them. Well, they were shopped around as carp were shopped around as an invasive species that was going to drive out all the other species. But you know what? All the other species are still there. The fear-mongering is still there. There's always all these new invasive species ready to take out all the other species, but yet all the other species are still there. I was just thinking recently, this last week, we were kind of, I don't know, some people were ragging on the millennials a little bit. And, it just occurs to me, there's so much fear-mongering now. There's so much fear porn on the internet. We had our share in the 70s, but now, I mean, it must be hard growing up in this era because when I was, 15 and all that fear-mongering was on, I just accepted it. When you're younger, you just accept what you're fed. And it takes decades, I think, for a lot of us to kind of realize that a lot of that stuff didn't happen and not to just blindly fall into that. And, the kids now are a little bit more jaded than we were. But I mean, it's got to be hard to grow up in this era where like every 5 seconds a disaster is around the corner in the media, and there's going to be the solar flare and the global warming and the super volcano and the 16 different viruses are spreading around the earth, sure to destroy the economy. And all this stuff is just so much more intense now. I mean, it's got to be hard growing up in that environment. That's got to contribute to some of the anxiety. So I don't know. Cut him a bit of a break is all I'm saying. Fish breathe oxygen. Yeah, not anymore. Apparently carp can, I don't even know what they're breathing. They ferment and they can anaerobe. I don't know. There's not even a nice, there's not even a verb for it, is there? I don't know. Anaerobic respiration, that's a noun. I don't know what the verb is. What is the verb for that? Did the broom thing, stood from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's the one with the tilted angle brush. You know, the funny thing is I have a tilted angle one, and it looks like it's in good condition, but it will only stand up for like 10 seconds. It still looks weird. It looks totally wrong. But I just kind of laugh because I might be the exception to the universe, that I still have a little bit of the old timeline here. These carp are closer to the archetype of Leviathan. Yeah. I have the tilted broom standing for hours. It's not possible. It looks so wrong. Yet if we could always do this, I just can't imagine that humankind, nobody knew and it wasn't viral and it looks so wrong. There's just, I just don't see how people didn't know. This should have been something that we screwed around with before. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just seeing an Emmy in every corner, but there is just something really weird about that. It's like, why do you even put away your broom? You could just put it in the middle of the room. Boop. My husband is an engineer and he couldn't believe the broom standing there. He said, I have no idea how this could happen. Physics laws are jokes. You know, everything that was the old way is just breaking down. I mean, all the assumptions, the divisions between things, the categories are splitting and merging, and everything is just like helter-skelter, man. It's just crazy. I never heard of these brooms either. See, it's all brooms. Even the angled brooms stand. All right, it looks like, I don't know, it looks like you guys, looks like I'm back, right? Let me just look up there and see. Derp, derp, derp. Yeah, stream status, okay. Hopefully you guys didn't miss too much. Helter Skelter. Helter Skelter. It was an old movie that basically, I probably should look it up to make sure it's the same thing. But it just means like everything's all crazy and running around all insane. That's what Helter Skelter means. And it's based off an old movie called Helter Skelter. All right, so... Okay. There's a lot of neat ones. I guess I'll just trudge through with what I've got already. NASA. Okay. This was on Reddit earlier today. 7 hours ago. I'm 27. My pup weighs more than me. All right. Does this not look like a Photoshop? You got a giant head and a tiny body. I've had a lot of weird body shapes on where people being really skinny. In my old timeline, if you were this skinny, you would just be dead. I mean, you're not going to survive with that much level of emaciation. I mean, I swear my bones in my arm have to, by themselves, have to be bigger than this arm. Okay, so this is supposedly a real person that has, it just looks photoshopped to me. I've never seen this one before where the head is huge like this and the body is tiny. This person has spinal, muscular, the heck did you call that again? Atrophy. Not dystrophy, but atrophy. So basically, the muscles atrophy and don't develop due to, I think it was a missing protein or something like that. So as they get older, they have like a normal head. I don't get why their face actually doesn't look weird. I mean, you have muscles in your face, but somehow, I mean, I don't know why. Like, if somebody's on meth, their face kind of caves in because all their muscles go away. But these people, their face looks normal. Like, you have muscles in your face. You know, and see, I don't know. I don't get why their face looks normal if their muscles are atrophied and they don't have this protein. But yeah, as they get older, they'll have this like big face and then this tiny little body. There was some other examples. So they just look like they're, this one is not adult yet, so that person doesn't look as strange. But the face, see, it looks fairly puffy and stuff. It doesn't look like somebody without muscle in their face. If you don't have muscle, shouldn't your face be all like caved in? I mean, I guess I looked around and I didn't really see an explanation for why the face looked normal. So again, ask the questions. What's up with that? Why is the head normal? I don't know. I just feel like there's an adaptation here getting us used to seeing unusual balances of you know, how do I describe it? Just unusual looks. People with balances of size. You know, you have a huge, someone had a hand that was like this big. You know, now you have a head this big, tiny body. All these people are surviving fairly well. This one is more of an extreme example here, but so yeah, and so interesting. This one shows up, never heard of it, but they've already got a cure for it now. Not exactly a cure, but a treatment where there's a DNA treatment where somehow the body starts making the proper. Okay, they have a defect in the SMN gene. And then there's the medication is called Spinraza. Basically tricks the body into processing SMN2 in a way that increases SMN protein production. It was interesting because they said it just stopped the development of the disease. If they're actually making the protein again, I don't know why they couldn't start to develop their muscles in a positive direction. But right now they're just saying that it would stop the degradation of the muscles. I don't also, if you're not making the protein, then how do you even get to be an adult if later it kills you? I mean, you're a little baby and you're not making the protein, so you can't develop your muscles. Then how do you even become an adult? If you have enough protein to grow into an adult, then why don't you have enough protein to stay alive as an adult? I don't know. There's just a lot of this stuff that when I really start looking at it, I don't really understand it. It's just not, there's a lot of weird things. Maybe there's an explanation somewhere, but, you know, if you had enough proteins to become an adult, why don't you have enough proteins to survive as an adult? If the protein causes your muscles to degrade, then why is your head look normal? Why don't you look like all skeletal in the head zone? If it's just muscles, then why do you look so small in the body? You should look like more skeleton, but these look like children. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so another weird thing there. See what you guys are up to real quick here. He was profiled on the YouTube channel SBSK. Yeah, probably recently. I thought it was the song Helter Skelter. Doesn't that song I don't know. I thought it came from a movie though, Helter Skelter. I thought the song came from a movie. And it was a long time ago, so I'm not like super clear on it. It's just one of the things that are in the culture. Looks manipulated. Yeah, it looks photoshopped. The minute I saw it, I'm like, what? The thing is, I mean, it might sound morbid, but I've always been massively curious about these things. So these are things that I've always looked into. I looked at the DNA. I'd ponder about how the development of these things and if there was any genetic benefits. And I mean, I was so into these things. That's why there's like, it's blowing my mind how many of them there are now. You can see him move around and talk on SBSK if you want. He's not photoshopped. I actually didn't mean to imply I thought it was a Photoshop job. I don't. I just think it looks so strange that that's the first thing you think when you see it. It looks photoshopped. No, there's all these weird things now, and I don't think it was Photoshop. And I looked up the disease, and it's legit, and there's lots of other people who have it. So no, I don't think it's Photoshop. But when you see it, in my opinion, that's what the first thing I'm like, no, that's not real. Then I'm like, oh, research, it is real. It's real. I mean, knowing about the Mandela, I don't blow stuff off quickly anymore. I check. No matter how weird it is, I now check. Like a fish that can breathe 3 different ways and walk on its fins on the ice and hang out. Um, Back in the back of my brain, and it makes me crazy because I can't remember where I heard it, but I remember there used to be a saying about the fish coming out of the water and leaving the seas, like the fish leaving the seas. And I thought it was like some kind of Bible thing, like some kind of prediction, but I can't remember now. I mean, and even if it was in the Bible, it might not be there anymore, but I'm kind of been trying to rack my mind where I heard that from. On Retconned, I noticed that there's a lot of people showing up to discuss old Emmys as if they just happened. Oliver Henry. Yeah. I think I mentioned this last week. Some people just noticed Hillary having 2 L's. I mean, that happened for me like 3 years ago, maybe, around there, right before the last election. But people are saying it just happened this last week. There's been kind of a small new wave of people who are suddenly just seeing shifts that some of us saw a couple years ago. All right, so, all right, this is kind of a smaller one. Saw it last week. Running with bad knees might be okay after all. This was the interesting part that I got out of this, and the ability of cartilage to adapt and get stronger in response to regular exercise. It never had that ability before. Cartilage would wear down. There was no blood supply. It could not regrow. But in this timeline, if you have bad knees, actually people who jog apparently got less knee problems. Say you already had bad knees and either you were a jogger or you weren't. The ones that jogged had less development of the illness than those that didn't. And this whole cartilage adapt and strengthen thing is a total new storyline. I don't know, super new, but wasn't my old timeline. It used to be cartilage wore down and did not grow back. There's also kind of a story in here. They were saying how, like, if you had a period where you didn't exercise, like say you were laid up in bed, like for a few weeks or something, they're saying that your cartilage will thin rapidly due to what was the word that they used? Blah, blah, blah. I know I'm too lazy to find it, but and that's a new storyline too. I've not heard that your cartilage would suddenly thin on you. It used to be kind of a static thing. It would be there or it would wear down, but it's very dynamic now. Basically, cartilage has or much more dynamic. It is dynamic. It used to be just. It did not respond to outside influence that much. It couldn't shift. So anyway, that's probably a good thing because it means that, potentially you could grow it back or something. I think that storyline's coming. It's not quite here yet. All right. Another weird thing. Okay, I have talked before about the Civil War and how I remember Lincoln having freed the slaves. Okay, in my old timeline, the north side freed their slaves, and then they were trying to force the south side to free their slaves, and the south side didn't wanna. And once the south lost, then the slaves were freed. There was a whole story, like we learn it every year about how these poor slaves had never been free and they didn't know how to survive on their own, and suddenly they were free and they didn't understand how to survive on their own because they had never a lot of them grew up as slaves and they just didn't know where to start. That didn't really happen here. The North never freed their slaves. A few states did independently, but it wasn't required. And in the South, they actually, so Lincoln now, he declared the Southern slaves free while he was still fighting the war, so he didn't have control of the South. And he only declared them free in the states he did not yet have control over, and several southern states that they had already sort of controlled, they weren't freed there. And they made them a rule that if they rebelled, they would be allowed to join the Union Army. So they were trying to free, like if you rebelled and ran away, then we would, kind of free you by letting you join our army. And then, so he didn't really free anybody now, apparently. But another thing that has been really developing is this Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. So apparently now there was this rule that, there was an original slave act that said that if any slaves escaped, you had to return them. But it didn't have a lot of teeth. And so in 1850, another act was enacted penalizing officials who did not arrest an alleged runaway slave. So even if you were in a free state, if there was a runaway slave, you were bound by law to return this. Okay, so this person who did not arrest an alleged runaway slave and made them liable for a fine of $1,000 if you didn't arrest them, which is about $31,000 in present-day value. Law enforcement officials everywhere were required to arrest people suspected of being a runaway slave on as little as a claimant's sworn testimony of ownership. The suspected slave could not ask for a jury trial or testify in his own behalf. In addition, any person aiding a runaway slave by providing food or shelter was subject to 6 months imprisonment and a $1,000 fine. This is on the northern side. This is the Union side. Of officers who captured a fugitive slave were entitled to a bonus or promotion for their work. So basically, anybody could just say, that guy's my slave, I swear, and then law enforcement was required under penalty and all this yam of handing over the slave. So the North was not like this safe haven for slaves anymore. Even more so. Even the few states that did have freedom for blacks, were still a location where anybody could say that person's my slave and just have a sworn testimony and get that person. And they weren't entitled to any jury trial. Like, say that person had been free for 10 years. I just come up and say that's my slave. They didn't have any way of disputing it according to this law. This law was not in my old timeline at all. Anyways, it's just all wrong. This was not there. Absolutely not. All right, so Wikipedia is not the historical record. I'm not saying it was, but the same stuff is all over the internet in National Geographic and everybody else. So nobody's disputing this Fugitive Slave Act. Wiki is easy because it tells you the current common belief system that is spread all over the internet. And I do check other locations, but then I come to Wiki because everything is all nice and packaged in a simple form, and I don't have to look at 10 different articles to say the same thing. Yes, I've checked it in other places than Wiki. Hitler's eyes seem different, not the color, but the depth. Yeah, the mustache is different too. It keeps changing. I believe there's a story he married his mistress hours before they both committed suicide. If true, the wife part is correct. Yeah, my old timeline, there was never really clarity on what Ava was to him. People guess that maybe she was a lover, but nobody knew for sure. Maybe he was, so weird that he didn't like girls, or who knows. But they weren't really ever sure what the two of them's relationship was. In this timeline, apparently he married her right before he committed suicide, and so then I guess that kind of indicates the general belief system. There wouldn't have been a question now with the marriage thing so much, but that's different. That was not my old timeline. Hitler looks like somebody would be sweeping the school and cleaning the toilet. He was never like that good looking for me, but really? Hitler has gotten good looking? Okay. I just said that right before I read that. Okay, let me just look at Hitler. Hitler got good looking, huh? All right, let's see. I guess, looks are always in the eye of the beholder. He's not as bad looking as he was before. His mustache. His mustache used to be thinner and longer for me. It was more pencily. Now it looks like a giant, like, divot of grass or something. It is. It's funny. It used to be a thing, I don't know. It keeps changing. I'm wondering if it's going to start growing onto his lip. Pretty soon he'll have a furry, lip, and then it'll be like a strip like that. I'm just, who knows where it's gonna go. But I don't know. He might be less bad looking than before, but he's not my style. Yeah, he is better looking than he was. The hair is still bad, but I was just thinking the other day. You ever notice these famous people? A strangely large portion of famous people have weird, kind of archetypal or very, like, they have some kind of a physical thing that makes them stick out. Like Gorbachev had the stain on his head. Hitler's got that mustache. Was that guy in North Korea's got the goofy hair, and there's just, and then of course we have Trump with his crazy hair. There's just a strange, large number of famous people, like political people with weird traits, like weird physical traits. A lot of them are voluntary too. So I don't know. I just kind of wonder if it's sort of like almost like a bad character development on TV where they just make everybody look sufficiently recognizable. Although Hitler's mustache keeps changing, but it's slow enough that people are able to adapt. Another one is a lot of people remember the Hitler thing like this, like where you stick your hand out straight ahead, but now they stick it out to the side. That's another Mandela. People remember it straight forward, but now it's out here. Was the whatever they call it, the salute. That's changed. See, look, you can really see on this one. It's out more to the side. It's like half out. There's a lot of those. Okay, anyways, moving on. Hopefully you guys are still connected. Yeah, stream status okay. All right. Hitler gone. Okay. On the subject of animals developing to be more human-like or more sophisticated, this is an interesting one. So basically, there is a guy kind of playing. There's a human sitting outside the fence line, bopping on this little drum thing, and you'll hear the human basically making music. What was interesting about this is, and I saw this a number of days back, and I swear it has already changed since then. But this, was it a chimp? I think it was a chimp. First, it starts dancing and bopping around, and it's not really in time with the music for a lot of it. And I'm not going to play the whole clip because I'll get nailed on copyright. But at the end, it starts this chimp starts clapping, and when I first saw this clip, it was not anywhere near in time with the music, except for a couple, like 2-3 claps. And now a lot of the claps are very close to in time with the music, if not right in time with the music. So I think what we're seeing here is not only are these chimps walking on 2 legs a lot more than they ever did before and a lot more easily, but this one is not only enjoying this music and kind of dancing, but it is actually clapping really close to in time with music. So I'm just going to put this on so I can hear. All right, so you can see this one is called Chimp Stock, and it's on our Reddit subreddit WTF. So you can see him. Basically, he claps to the music for a while till the end here. I've got to be really careful about these copyrights, but in earlier parts, you can see there's the person bopping on the music there. This chimp dances around for a while. Let's see if we can get it. So basically, he bops around like he's dancing, and then he claps to it. There were no animals keeping time with music in my old timeline, but I realized that the one that started this were the birds, and that started about 3-4 years ago, where you would see these pet birds would go like this in time with music. And they were the first ones. And now we've got this chimp. So looking way back, birds were not able to keep in time with music, but it looks like this chimp can too. So anyway, very cool. Are we going to see dancing animals? I would not be at all surprised. We are almost there. History is changing daily. Some days ago, I read that George Washington is the only 6-star general. Never heard of it. Yeah, I never heard of it. Six-star general. Keep an eye on that one. I will not be surprised if there are more 6-star generals. 6-star general. 6-star rank. George Washington was posthumously promoted to the rank of General of the Armies, although the law did not actually specify the number of stars. Some U.S. newspapers members described this as a 6-star rank. All right, let's look at the answer to this essay. How many 6-star generals are there? There are only 2 6-star generals. There are only 2 6-star generals, but 3 6 stars in total. How many 6-star generals have ever been in the history of U.S.? For the Army, there is General of the Armies of the United States, and for the Navy, there is Admiral of the Navy. George Washington was promoted by Congress to the rank. George Dewey received the rank for defeating the Spanish in the Spanish-American War. All right, so there's 2 of them now. There are only 2 6-star generals, but 3 6 stars in total. I don't even understand that. The General of the Armies of the United States insignia is 4 gold stars. And the Admiral of the Navy was similar, 4-star Admiral, but had 2 anchors instead of 1. Okay, I don't even understand this. Anyway, it looks like most are saying that there was 2. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the strategy of the Mandela, is make it so confusing that nobody would ever really remember the details, and then when they change, you just think you were confused. The 7-star general will be coming in the near future. Yeah. 2 days ago was George Washington as a 6-star. See, I told you. I go keep an eye on it. There'll be another one. Boom. It's like I can almost sniff these Mandelas on the wind sometimes now. What if animals continue getting smarter and people continue getting dumber and we meet in the middle? You know? It really feels like we're getting dumber sometimes. I don't know. I don't know. You should just have to go with the flow. 7-star general. Yeah, who's going to be the 7-star general? Did you see the bats taking over Australia? No. All right, let's check it out. I don't know. It's just been one of those weeks, you know. Outnumbering humans 6 days ago. Hundreds of thousands of fruit bats. That's another thing that this timeline loves, is these swarms. Swarms of birds. I mean, bats, people were complaining about running out of bats. Now we've got more than humans, overrun by swarms of bats known as flying foxes. As tree branches break due to the weight of the bats. What are they getting? Where are they getting all their food from? I mean, there's so many bat Mandela effects. Weird looking bats, giant bats, mutant faced bats, white bats. Oh, and they've got rabies-like diseases. Yay. And of course, I don't know if people noticed, but that, the coronavirus, I bet you nothing bad will happen, because there's been like the millionth and 11th virus that is almost going to destroy the world. Is now named COVID-19, I believe. They just renamed it. I don't know why they didn't come up with the name before, but suddenly it's COVID-19, if I remember. Yeah. So now instead of coronavirus, it's COVID-19 virus. They were saying one of the vectors was the pangolin, which is we discovered a coronavirus similar to the COVID-19 virus 7 years ago. It is likely that so they were saying that pangolins were one of the potential vectors that they suspect help spread this COVID-19. And in case you forget what a pangolin looks like, blink. It's these things, and this is a total ME for me. And when they first came out, they were like this big. And now they're huge. Oh, I see they've got fleshy underbellies now. That's new. Scaly anteaters. They did not have fleshy underbodies before, I swear. Every time I look at them, they're weirder. Anyways, so basically, they didn't exist before, and now they're a potential vector of COVID-19. Can't make this stuff up. Bats are taking over Australia. It's also now from a manned animal. Yep. I feel very gaslit sometimes. Not just sometimes anymore. You know, it's just been one of those Mandela weeks. And this morning, I went to pickleball. Pickleball, a Mandela effect for some. So I like playing pickleball. Been playing for a couple years now. Went somebody who was one of the trainers that she teaches classes, and she nice woman. About 6 months ago, I was talking to her and she was telling me she was moving. They bought a home up north. They were sick of here. They were moving. They bought the home. And then a few weeks later, I saw her again. She said that was her last time coming because they were moving next week. You know, everything was packed up and they were shipping out. And she probably would never be back. She didn't really have anybody in the area. I said my goodbyes. I thought it was sad because she was a nice person. And this morning, she shows up at pickleball and she had a student coming and I was confused. And so I said, "Oh, did you move back? Are you visiting?" Nope, she never moved. She never sold her house. She's been here the whole time, except for I haven't seen her in 6 months. And she said they're thinking about moving maybe one of these days. They're sort of dissatisfied from here and they'd like to move. But nope, they didn't buy a house. They didn't move. She's been here the whole time. Like, I'm getting almost used to it. I freak out a little less every time, but it's just like, it's hard to even keep up with talking to people because everything that was true 6 months ago is now wrong. Oh no, pickleball again. We need to see some professional teams. All right, I've already had pickleball on once. You guys can see it on YouTube. Japan approves groundbreaking experiment bringing human-animal hybrids to term. Okay, let's look that one up because we don't have enough Mandelas for this week. I'm going to be here all night talking about Mandelas. Approves groundbreaking experiment bringing human hybrids to term. There it is. Which one of these links do I want to go to? Let's go to Business Insider since they are theoretically somewhat responsible. Japan approved experiments that would allow for animal-human hybrids to be born for the first time ever. Ho 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 ho. Stem cell experiments meant to create animal-human hybrids. Requires approval from the Japanese Science Ministry. Would create animal embryos that contain human cells and transplant them into surrogate animals to create organs that might be viable for a transplant to humans. Of course, it starts that way, is that these will be 99% animal and 1% human or some such. But that's a slippery slope. Japan, of all people, with the anime and the 10,000 cartoons of half human, half animal, cat-headed creatures, and they almost invented the concept. Of course, they would be the ones to do it. Coincidence? I don't think so anymore. I don't think there's anything such thing as coincidences anymore, really. Experts have raised ethical concerns, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it'll start out innocent enough, but you know it's going to sneak along. Don Hollyfield is in. Hello. Joseph Correa, David Cook, Intrepid. All right, so there we go. I've not made that much progress. Okay, whale poopnado, because this timeline loves its poops and grossness. So apparently whales in the current timeline, if they feel threatened, will let out a giant massive poop, and then they'll whip it into a poopnado and like poopify you so that you're so disgusted by the giant poop explosion. I mean, apparently they deliberately do this, so this is like a known behavior in the current timeline. They poop it out. So if you bug them, they're going to poop on you, and then they're going to whip it into a poopnado so that you have poop all in your wetsuit and everything. Because whales are gross in this timeline. You know, that kind of takes away some of the whale watching fun if they might make a poopnado on you. So this timeline loves its tornadoes and it loves its poop, so we got to have a poopnado. Of course. Of course. All right, poopnados next. I wonder if I've gotten demonetized yet after saying poopnado like 67 times. Let me just check. Now I'm really curious. I'm just wondering how fast they get me. Dum, dum, dum. Shoot, I can't remember where my monetization is. Derp, derp, derp. Because I can't remember anything. Shoot, I can't remember where that's at now. Live streaming. Live. Info. That might be it. Monetization. Doom. Oh, it's still monetized. It's a miracle. We'll see how long that lasts for. How many times can I say poopnado before I get demonetized? Okay. Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to leave that up there just to see if it bugs them. The Thinker. Somebody brought up the Thinker again. And they were talking about something else, but I noticed a lot of things. The Thinker. I probably should. First of all, the hair. There was that funny like tab out the side, but now the hair's gotten real thick. I think he's getting a cap now, because suddenly there's like this big like shelf over here of hair, and it's all like weird in here. It really is looking more like helmet headed now a lot suddenly. There's also just a bunch of weird lumps and stuff on him. His face has gotten sort of I don't even know how to describe it, like misshapenly Neanderthal like or something. See if I can find it. Face. All right, so see, this is real thick now. There's like this reconnection successful. All right, we're back. Dum, da, da, dum. See if I this like here. I don't remember this little thing there. There really looks like a kind of a weird strip across the top here a little bit. Right through here. There's a lump there. Like he's like molten. This one was weird because it looks like there's like this weird molten here, and then there's like this what's this on his neck? Now there's all these different versions now, so it makes it harder. What's this going on in here? how many lid lines do you need in here? You've got, that might be his actual eyelid. And then you got 1, 2, 3, 4 ridges in this thing. And what's this, like snot lines? You've got molten hair. You've got pustules on the neck. Oh, the other thing, the thing the other person mentioned, and I probably should have linked that person, so I apologize, is the hand is really straightened out. It was kind of like this, and now it's like that. If you put your face down and try to stick your lip on there, and then try to hold up your head weight with your knuckles stuffed in your mouth, it's not comfortable. It is not comfortable on your lip or your hand. You are not going to be actually holding up your head with your knuckles punched in your mouth in any kind of reasonable thing. But yeah, he used to be kind of a peaceful looking creature. And so you can see that pustule on there too. So yeah, oh here, this one really shows it. What is this? I don't know, is that an original? Gosh, it's they all look so weird now. I'm trying to find that so his eyebrows are totally uneven now. Let me see if I can find that one I had up earlier. Here. What is this giant lump thingy here on this eyebrow? And this one's got all these ridge lines, and this is like, it looks like there's a giant caterpillar underneath his eyebrow pushing out his skin or something. So yeah, just grosser looking. What's, this one, what is this giant pustule underneath the eye here? I mean, I don't know. I mean, he looks terrible. He just looks terrible now. He's just molten grossness. Ugh, it's a terrible looking statue. Can't believe it's not even the same one anymore. All right. All right, that's enough whining about that. Looks like constipated person. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody is obviously extremely worried. He's not thinking. I mean, he's crabby, upset, and miserable. Maybe like stewing might be more the word. Sucking on his hand. Yeah, he had hair before, and then he kind of didn't, and then he sort of did, and then he never had a cap on, except for, it looks like he's gonna. Yeah, it's me, Sia. I actually wondered if it was going to turn into a baseball cap. Somebody was joking that next thing you know, the thinker will be dabbing, and everybody will say it was always like that. And it occurred to me right then that I'm like, it reminds me of a baseball cap. So it's funny you said that. It's like it's growing into, I'm like, next thing you know, the thinker will have always been wearing a sideways baseball cap like some 18-year-old punk. And it'll always have been that way. And then they'll tell you that that's where the sideways baseball cap trend came from, the famous thinker, or some ridiculous thing like that. Used to be very handsome, now not so much. Yeah, he used to be handsome. Now he looks more like kind of a Neanderthal or something, a miserable one. Yeah, he didn't frown, he was thinking, he was pondering peacefully, like intellectual style. Now he just looks miserable. Yeah, hand on. So it was like, here, and then, well, originally it was for here for me, and then somehow it got to there, apparently. I missed that part because it had already been to here by the time I saw it. And now his hand is slowly squishing into his mouth, and this is not comfortable. Just try it, and you will see that you will last about 3 seconds before you decide that you aren't doing that anymore. Yeah, it wasn't closed for a while, but it's been slowly spreading out, and it was like this for a while, and now it's like... Okay, so we got that. All right, well, let's see if I can get Google Earth to start. Might as well get that one started early. Give up the poopnado. You can do it, Google Earth. There's nothing really super exciting, but I did notice some few this and that's. Might as well just mention it before I forget. Not sure how. I'll just see what you guys are up to while I'm waiting for this to load. Hopefully my computer is up to it. Can I dab again? No, I forgot how already. It's not my era. No screenshots of Eva dabbing. That's not right. SDS Aquatic is out of here. Well, thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. I'd be anxious too if I had random stuff growing on my head. Yeah. Plus, you know, in this timeline, it was a statue that was meant to go with the Gates of Hell sculpture set. That was not in my old timeline. So I guess if you were sitting in front of the Gates of Hell, you'd be doing more than thinking. Chickens are catching the virus. Are we talking about the COVID-19? All right, I'll check it real quick. Chickens. COVID-19. Church's chicken. New name for disease which caused by virus outbreak. Backyard chicken trend causes spike in infection. Okay, H5N1 was in chickens. Yeah, the species border's breaking down. It used to be really rare for many diseases to survive in more than one species, but now it's pretty common. All right, so now we're blaming it on backyard chickens, huh? They had infected him with salmonella. You know, chickens did not carry salmonella in my old timeline. Sorry, number of illnesses from poultry-related diseases, some of them fatal. Yeah, you know, a while back they were saying that some lizards would carry salmonella and you should wash your hands afterwards, but there was no chickens. I totally looked into that. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not getting lizards then because they carry salmonella. Poultry can carry salmonella. They're saying diseases, but I'm only seeing salmonella listed. I guess we'll wait till the next shift to see what else chickens will carry. I'm not seeing anything about chickens carrying COVID-19. Either it's not widely disseminated yet, or it was maybe the H1N1 or something. It's a Nazi helmet. Yeah, it's turning into something. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's got that sideways brim thing. India, Malaysia, Thailand news. All right. Well, we should hear about it soon if it's going to hit for the chickens having the COVID. I just refuse to worry about it. There has just been too many of these. We should have all been dead like 10 times over. Yet somehow everything always peters out. So I think that this COVID-19 is going to be the same. You just gave people an idea taking a picture of you dabbing. Well, I guess I'd rather have you waste time with that than worse things you could be doing. So maybe it was all a secret plan. Gates of Hell, well, that's new and something to think on. Yes. The thinker is now... was originally supposed to be part of the Gates of Hell. See, even Google finishes it for me. So there's all these other sculptures that Rodin did, and the thinker was supposed to be like in front of it. So it actually makes sense that he's all miserable because he was in front of the Gates of Hell now. Thinking about the gates. I used to just think about, boring stuff in my old timeline, but So I guess this is the gates of hell. There he is thinking. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Not English news. Okay, well, I can't check it, but keep an eye open for if chickens are carrying the COVID-19 slash coronavirus, if you guys hear anything. It's me, Sia's taking a break. Thanks for coming by. Salmonella came into my world in 86. I don't know when I first heard of salmonella. It's definitely been around a while, but okay, so we got that. All right, let's see if Google Earth is all loaded nicely. Boink, it looks like it is. Ooh, it remembers where we were. You know, I was just looking up. Come back. I was just looking at this. It remembers. I was just looking at these squares. These square patterns. What are these going to be? Because everything, look at it. Everything is like even. I mean, it looks like roads and buildings under here. This is how many miles? Shoot. I'm not sure what the. This is a big area. I'm not sure how you check to see how many miles between. I wish there was like just maybe this thing, the ruler thing. Between select start point, boink, select end point, boink. 237 kilometers. What is that, like 100 miles or something? I don't remember, but it's a lot. So there's this rectangles like 100 miles long, something like that. A lot of these lines, I mean, they're saying, people were saying that they're like fissures, but look at, there's like all these right angles on this and stuff. What's up with all that? What's up with this right angle square thing here? I mean, are these like pipelines? If they're pipelines, why do they make the right angle then? Wouldn't they just go that way and then they end right here? I don't get what all these are, and this just showed up the last few weeks. So I don't know. Anybody know what this is supposed to be? What these lines are supposed to be here? Weird. But they look totally artificial. Look at that. That looks like a giant rectangle. How long is that? This is a rectangle that's from there to about there, 2,000 kilometers. So, you know what, 800 miles or something? Pardon my math. It's going to be a very vague estimate. But, yeah, all right, so I know I almost forgot about that. What is this thing here, too? This is... What is this lumpy thing? That wasn't... I don't know. There's weird stuff going on. Weird stuff. I don't remember this lumpy thing even last... This outline here, I don't remember last time I looked. What are all these lines? Dang, you know, even just a few weeks ago, there weren't this many very weird lines. What's all this coming to over here? Is there even a storyline for these lines? Look at these. I mean, this debuted, what, a few weeks ago? Maybe a few months ago? Even a few weeks ago, there weren't this many 4 lines like that. Actually, I'm just kind of flipping out a little bit because there wasn't that much stuff. I was just over here looking and there was no way. Okay. Just one of those Mandela weeks. Just gotta chill out. All right, so what was I going to complain about was Madagascar I was complaining about. Here. Madagascar is huge. Whoops. Madagascar was a tiny little old island, and it is huge now. Madagascar is like bigger than Spain now. Look at Madagascar, it's huge. All kind of new. It's like bigger than like 3 or 4 or 5 countries in Europe. It's huge. Our Europe got small. I don't know, but it was not that big. Sorry, it was just this tiny little podunk island. Lots of cool creatures from there now, but that thing just keeps inflating like there ain't no tomorrow. All right, another thing I was going to talk about was I mean, I've been watching this, but this area above Australia has gotten so much bigger. I mean, when this first showed up here, it was just like this big. All this Papua New Guinea was nowhere near this size. It's huge now. And this thing, I think this was Kalimantan. A lot of people don't remember any country called Kalimantan. This whole range above Australia is just inflating like monstrously. Why is it bright blue on the top of Australia? That's weird. What's up with the bright blue? That's new. I don't remember it being super bright blue there. Australia is getting so many islands now. It's ridiculous. So, there's one there, one there. I noticed there's a whole bunch of broken off ones off of, look at over here. That one wasn't there. Tasmania's got a whole bunch of little pieces it didn't, and Tasmania's gotten a lot bigger. Okay, I think that was my main 3 things I wanted to talk about. There's probably a bunch of other stuff I missed. New Zealand has not split off into 3s yet. You know, this thing, when did that show up actually? This little piece, I don't remember. When did that island show up, and what is it called? What are you called, little island? Stewart Island, Rockura. Well, that's cute. Anyway, yeah, look, all these cute little islands. All right. This one just made me laugh. I think in another timeline I wouldn't have thought much about this, but I saw this title on Yahoo. No one can explain why planes stay in the air. It's just like the perfect title for everything in the entire world right now. Especially with all the plane Emmys. So they're saying that there's aerodynamic lift, which keeps planes in the air, and there are equations for aerodynamic lift. But what they're saying in this article is that they understand that the equations work, but people cannot agree or fully understand why the aerodynamic lift exists in the first place, which I thought was very interesting. I can't swear this is an ME because I never really studied it, but I think it's pretty dang interesting. So basically they're saying we have equations, but we really don't know what's behind the equations, like what causes them to function. You kind of wonder how they come up with the equations to start with. So anyway, more classic, new timeline weird. Let's see. Hopefully I haven't been talking at nobody. I don't see any recent posts. No, it says stream status is okay. I'm going to reboot. Qatar was not so huge in the water, and Denmark was not in the middle of the sea. Agree with that. I hope the Mandela becomes more extreme so it wakes people up. I starting to suspect that what we're going to get, I think when I first saw this, I thought things would change until they got where they wanted to be, and then it would settle down. I think that was kind of my assumption for a while. Now I really kind of wonder if it's just going to ramp up and until people are forced to see that things are not what we thought. Oh, someone's confused about when I said Kalimantan. Kalimantan. What is it? Is that even its own country? Maybe it's in Indonesia. Kalimantan. Indonesian portion of the island of Borneo. Find a map for you. So it's one of those islandy looking things above Australia, basically. And I talked before that I don't remember this giant chunk. Right here is all Kalimantan. I could be pronouncing it wrong. If so, I apologize. So this chunk here is the Indonesian part of Borneo. I just remember there being a Borneo. I don't remember there being an Indonesian part of Borneo. But then I don't remember this being like humongous like it is. I mean, I guess it's not that big, but it's pretty big. I mean, it's getting to be like the size of like Turkey or, I mean, I think it has more land than Italy now or close. So it's not a tiny little location anymore. Maybe it once was. That whole thing was tiny before, so. What's on the North Pole? Without ice, what's on the North Pole? Nothing. Not anymore. Once upon a time, it was a continent with land and cliffs of ice, but now it is nothing under the ice. And there is, and we talked about Antarctica being half gone. There is another one that's half gone. If you haven't talked about the Mona Lisa, take a look at the high definition pictures because it's very, very colorful. Well, let's go over there and take a look. Mona List. Mona Lisa. Doop, doop, doo. Maybe it's that. I think I've seen this one before, though. Aren't they just kind of guessing? I don't know. View image. The chair is nice and distinguished now. There's a road now. Didn't used to be. I don't remember that little bit on the shoulder right there. That's different. This part here with the smooth slopes, I don't remember. This back part's always changing. This has gotten way lighter. For a while, it was all blue in here. This road thing was way more obvious before. Let me go look at one of the low definition ones, and 'cause that's what we're used to looking at. View image. No, actually, that is kind of how I remember it. Don't remember this open space over here. I don't remember this being golden tan. That's interesting. This color, I'm kind of a coloraholic, so I tend to notice color changes a lot. I do not remember this being this like, it's kind of a wealthy look now here. This. Interesting. Definitely smiling now. No more enigmatic smile. She's maybe a little coy smile, but not enigmatic. Let me look at, she gold in all of them. It's a little gold even in that one. That's interesting. I have not seen an image with the golden cuffs. Interesting. And then a lot of them, they're depicting it as orange now, too. I don't remember any color there, basically. And they're really gold in a lot of these images. Yeah, it's interesting. I've never seen the gold, but I have not seen this bright orange. Even this high definition one, originally, I don't remember it having that bright orange. Getting more colorful. I agree with you. It's getting more colorful. Everything's getting more colorful. I guess the Mona Lisa has to get more color. It really was quite drab when you think about it. Monty, I agree. It's getting colorful. So yeah, I was kind of wondering if the Mandela just get weirder and weirder until people have harder and harder time denying stuff. I mean, a lot of places are talking about there's a conspiracy theory in every story now. Like when Kobe Bryant died, and there was a bunch of conspiracies, and one was that his record was just passed the night before. His basketball record was just passed, and then he died the next morning. There was some other stuff, but I mean, like, there's like nothing big that happens that doesn't have a conspiracy theory, some crooked history of kickbacks and corruption, or something really strange. It's like conspiracy theory has gone mainstream now. People around here, people actually think that, we have a lot of military bases around here, and we always have. And so there's a lot of military just kind of bopping around. So you see trucks on the road, military trucks all the time. People around here are now saying, like, oh, it's a FEMA, United Nations FEMA camp because of the coronavirus. And I'm like, it's two trucks driving down the road. That's what we've always, I mean, like, people just didn't used to talk about. I mean, I love a good conspiracy theory too, but two trucks driving down the road that are military in a military area, that's not a conspiracy. But it's like conspiracy is mainstream now. Everything is a conspiracy. Everything that happens is weird. So I don't know. Like, if you think of conspiracy theory as kind of a stepping stone, to making you think that things may not be as they appear, it's like step one of a lot of steps to question. Every time you step out of the box a little, it's easier to take one more step. And so I wonder, if that's part of it. I don't know. It's just the trend I'm seeing. All right, so that's page 1. Oh my gosh, there's so many. I did that one. This one, I almost made this weird new critter. Almost made this the thumbnail, but people would be like, what is that? Lampro. But you know what? That creepy fish, that was the best. This thing doesn't even look real. It looks like some kid made this one up. This one was definitely made up by some kid. Lamproderma echinulatum. Now, you might want to say that that's a fungus. I mean, it's not. It's one of those slime molds, and I've talked about those before. So they're like these single-cell organisms that occasionally combine all together and grow specialized parts and operate as a single organism, and then later they might just disband and all go their separate ways. And that's slime molds. I looked into slime molds, I don't know, 6 months ago. This was not in there. This slime mold is ridiculous. It looks like a glitter ball, basically. Total insanity. Check them out. They're totally studly. That doesn't even look real. That just looks like some kind of Smurf cartoon prop or something. Purple, sparkly, single-celled organisms that band together. All right, that's actually a mushroom log. I don't even know if that's real, but Okay, so these are mushrooms, these mycotopias, and these are the slime molds. Okay, so there's a mushroom that's almost as cool, but not quite. Slime molds. So yeah, psh, I don't know. Weird. Look at that. That's so cool. Almost made that the thumbnail. It was definitely a strong runner-up. I think one of the reasons the fish made it is because I found it first, and I had already made the thumbnail ready to go, and I was late today getting home, so I went with what I had. Got you. Okay, so, somebody was on Reddit and we were talking about snow in New Zealand. For me, New Zealand used to be tropical, and then a few years ago it was, what do you call that word? Subtropical, and it had snow in the high mountains. And so they're like, oh, it's just in the high mountains. Sort of like Hawaii. Oh, it's just in the high mountains. Just wait. Hawaii's going to get snow lower. But right now, it's just in the high mountains. Well, that was how New Zealand was. It was just in the high mountains. Then somebody was on Reddit going, well, New Zealand is known for its snow fields. I'm like, snow fields? So apparently it's known for its ski resorts. But last I checked, which was like last week, they're saying that it does snow on the ground, and that New Zealand, like at sea level, it does occasionally snow at sea level, and they're calling it like alpine. So New Zealand's like alpine now, apparently, or at least that is getting bandied around, and it does have snow lower. I don't know if any of you guys remember where the old, oh, well, that's just in the high mountains for the snow business. It's not anymore. They do get snow at sea level. I'm waiting to see how long Hawaii will take to get snow at sea level. All right, so New Zealand is known for its snow fields. Okay, which one should I do next? Okay, I might as well just do this one because for me, the baby ones are always really freaky, but everybody else is like, no, it's always been that way. All right, so babies, when do you first feed them their first solid food? When should you feed baby the first solid food? Dum dum dum, dum dum dum. What do you remember? No cheating, no Googling. Gotta go from memory. And anybody who learned this in the last few years, nope, you don't count. I'm talking about people with old memories, like a while ago. When do you remember, like a young, baby, how old before you approximately do you start feeding them the chow? Do you remember former President Jimmy Carter collapsing in a marathon in 1979? Nope, and Snope. I do not remember that. That would have been big news. How embarrassing would that be? Yeah, no, well, it's true. I was pretty young then, I have to say, but it just seems like that would be something that would have been regurgitated endlessly by the opposite party and laughed at endlessly, because anytime somebody of one party looks dorky, the other party will never let them forget it. Suddenly, the president began to stagger, even though he had collapsed and was no longer being on his own. Yeah, I totally don't remember that. God, there should have been so many statements of remember when he collapsed. Oh, besides, that's just embarrassing. I heard a series of groans from President Carter. They were not the usual pants and grunts of breathlessness. He faltered. Two Secret Service reached under Carter's arms and held up his sagging body. Even though he had collapsed and was no longer making it on his own, obviously diminished steam, Carter lunged forward and mumbled words he said he wanted to keep going. It was clear he had no choice. He could not go on. He shuffled forward. Give him water and fast. Either they had no water or their advice was not considered worthy. When Carter slowed to a walk, he was shuffled out of the park. He was led to a cart. I didn't think Carter was suffering heat stroke or exhaustion. He was not that far into the race. This is kind of interesting. The president's pace was well short of burning. Oh, there's another conspiracy theory right here. This is interesting. After the race, I asked for his observations. The president looked gray and ashen. I thought he looked bad, very bad, and the possibility of heart attack was real. I was glad he recovered so well. He looked fresh and well. Wait, oh, this is the beginning. No, later in the day. A few veteran runners were heard grumbling the president's collapse was bad for the sport and would give rise to still more snickers from the sedentary who think running can be hazardous to one's health. Huh. Weird. Okay, yeah, I never heard of that. That's bizarre. I'm going to put that down. Add it to the list. All right. Okay, so babies. Back to the babies. I love a good baby Mandela effect. What is the word for someone who remember both old and new versions? Is it a melder? I don't think we have a word, but people use dual memory a lot. Sometimes it's not old and new versions. It might be two different alternate versions but yeah, dual memory I think is the... Yeah, was it Moneybags 73 in the current timeline was talking about, a lot of people talking about dual memory lately. That has not been the case for me. I have very few dual memories. And the ones I do, I am pretty sure are because it kept changing. Like, say it was one way in the 80s and one way in the 90s, and I'll have a dual memory. But I think it really was like both ways. Because most of the time when I have a dual memory, I can remember that one came before the other. So if you've been exposed to two different ones, then it makes sense you have a dual memory. But apparently some people think that... I don't know. For me, I remember an order of them, but they just have two memories and maybe they don't know when they happened. I'm just wondering if dual memory is just a case of having been exposed to both. I think some people think maybe it's like there's two different yous and you're remembering two different separate pasts. I don't feel like that's the case for me personally. I can't swear that my answer is the only one, but that's the feeling I get from my dual memories. And like I said, I don't have a lot of them. I do definitely remember some that very specifically were first this, then this also. So apparently someone coined it on retcon. Melder? I missed the party if that's the new word. I still like dual memory though. Slime. It's slime molds. Those sparkly things. They're slime, like mold, like as in a fungus mold. So SLIME space MOLDS. I have found the opposite to be true. People seem to be doubling down on the mainstream narrative around me. Huh. Well, maybe there'll just be a dichotomy where people have to choose, But I think that most people would probably agree that conspiracy is all over the internet now and is very mainstream, at least on the internet. Even if you choose not to believe them, it's very hard to throw a rock without hitting a conspiracy theory anymore. You can't not see them. You may not believe in them, but they're constantly thrown in your face now. Used to be, it was just you'd have to make an effort to find it. There'd be a few shows on TV on, like, say, Kennedy assassination once in a while, but it wouldn't be like around every corner. Maybe the CERN experiments damaged something that is unraveling the fabric of the matrix, and it was always many layers. Who knows? Who knows? See, CERN didn't even go back that far for me, so to me, CERN is more like an effect. I'm not saying it can't be a cause, but it's hard to look at something and see it as obviously an effect, but then also could be a cause. Non-stop conspiracy gaslighting at the moment on news here in Australia. Yep. Everything is a conspiracy. And the evidence for conspiracies is a lot better now. I mean, like, the old evidence for, like, we didn't go to the moon was like, yeah, it was kind of interesting, but it wasn't enough to convince me. But now there's tons of weird stuff. If you really go into, like, the ISS live stream weirdness, there's so many weird things in their supposed live streams that just scream fake. That there was never that good audience evidence. 9/11 is just getting weirder and weirder every second, with the tornado, the Cat 3 tornado, and oh my gosh. Who's in town? Top Villain 13. Look out. Top Villain 13 is in the house. I saw a post about San Francisco 1936 movie. It's an ME for people and a tech before its time. The earthquake scene is better than any movie I've ever seen. Yeah. Oh, the movies. They're so clear now. It's ridiculous. All right, so, okay, nobody's got a comment on when babies can first eat hard food. When was it recommended that babies first eat hard food? Okay, for me, it was said at about 1 year old, you would start to give them like a snack, like a Cheerio or something. I personally would not give my baby artificial crap foods to start with, but that's the reality we live in. Anyways, but yeah, it was about 1, and they would say, well, the babies will start, pawing for it at 1. Well, apparently now it is 4 to 6 months is when you can start giving them hard food. And but there's a saying, which I've certainly never heard: food before 1 is just for fun. Actually, let me just look this up and see where we even are. Never heard of it. It's just for fun. Myth. Okay, let me look up the myth. And other lies that rhyme. Giving the impression that it's not important to introduce solid food until well after babies need it. Okay, so please debunk this old wives' tale. That's not an old wives' tale. That's when you used to start feeding them. Oh, that's so wrong. And they didn't even want it before then. Right around 1, they'd start getting like, the nosh desire. All right, so this is interesting because I was looking at this at some, pregnancy board or something, and people are on there going, "Well, I didn't feed my baby until they were 1, and food before 1 is just for fun." And um, so I'm sure that those people didn't just starve their baby for 6 months because they didn't know any better. I mean, that was what they said. But the new storyline is all you people who didn't feed your baby until they were 1, uh, didn't know crap. You didn't know anything. No, it was 1 year old. I'm absolutely positive it was 1 year old. So now there's like, oh, the limitations of the milk, blah, blah, blah. But supposedly they start grabbing for it by about 6 months now. I don't know. And there's all these arguments on breast milk alone. A baby's only getting 2% of the iron they need. Wah, wah, wah. And then somebody else is saying the iron in breast milk is way more easy to digest than regular iron. And so they don't need as much because they have such high digestibility. Why iron is so much more important than fun. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, let's say that the baby, you're supposed to start feeding them between 4 and 6 months now. This is interesting. They're saying the window starts to open around 6 months and close around 10 months to teach them about food textures. But there's a lot of places saying 4 months, 4 to 6 months is when you start. So, Emmy for me. That's all I have. So, I mean, I think if you had a baby recently, then obviously it's going to be 4 to 6 months. But preliminal, my old timeline, NASA did have 6-man moon missions. Oh, not mine. One mission only to the moon. Preliminal, you are obviously way more new timeline than I am. Oh yeah, you're right. It was a hurricane. I'm sorry, not Chiqueta. It was a Cat 3 hurricane. And the latest is that it was heading straight for New York, and then suddenly zoomed off at the last minute. So that's the latest addition, is that it was maybe remote control hurricane. Why even have it there if you're going to blow up the Trade Center? What's the point? I don't know. The live streams I've seen from ISS and space looks real to me, but we might just be perceiving. No, it's not just any old live stream. It's these weird glitches and stuff that were in them. But you got to hunt for the glitches. I mean, if you just watch 5 minutes of random live stream, it still looks kind of green screen to me personally, but not enough that you could really argue for sure. But there are glitches in the live stream that are ridiculously stupid looking. And there's one where he goes by and you can see like the wire strap on him. He goes by in the back. It's ridiculous. He's wearing a wire. But see, that's another thing. And I'm not the first to bring this up, but I did think of it somewhat independently also. But if NASA was really faking the ISS live streams, if they were real, they shouldn't have all these weird glitches in them. But if they were faking it and they seriously wanted to keep it a secret, they should have the live streams on like a delay, and they should have blotted out boo-boos, or got them off the air, or debunked them. But no, they're all left up there for us to find. And so I do think, again, it's, there for us to see for whatever reason. These weird things, they're not really hidden from us. They're easy to find. I mean, eventually YouTube did finally start altering their search engines, but not until after years and years of throwing these in my face. And as much as it can be hard to find stuff on YouTube, I will watch something and suddenly the next suggestion will still be some weird Mandela effect, wackoness of the current timeline, or it'll be some weird conspiracy theory I've never heard of, that YouTube barfs up and throws onto my screen. So they are still plopping conspiracies in front of me all the time, YouTube is. Well, I search for them on my own, I can't find them, but YouTube is happy to deliver weird stuff on my plate without me even asking. So if YouTube really wanted to hide this stuff, it would not be like plopping this stuff on my plate. That Mars now has a blue sky at sunrise and sunset. Andela. Yes, I believe that might have been me that broke that story. As far as a Mandela effect, I mean, I'm not the one who was it I first saw? I saw the blue sky on, it was one of the conspiracy channels. Then I went back and looked at it, and then I saw that it was blue on sunrise and sunset. I'm sure I'm not the first one to notice that. I do think I might have been the first Mandela effect person to trot that one out. I don't know if anybody else did. Moon was strange lately as that there was a moon inside a bigger moon. Oh, I'm not sure what you mean by that one. I started rice cereal early. I think NASA here is different than what they were in the old reality. I can definitely relate to that. The old reality, space travel seemed legit. There weren't a bunch of facts that contradicted the possibility of it. Stuff looked way more real. We had less footage, but the footage we had was pretty realistic looking. There was conspiracy, but like I said, the conspiracy theories were not, they weren't cut and dry. It's like, yeah, maybe, but it wasn't enough to convince me. Like I looked into the whole, did we really land on the moon thing? And I thought they had some interesting stuff, but I wasn't convinced. I was a fence sitter, you know. I'm like, well, maybe, but you know, that wasn't enough. Now there's all kinds of stuff. It's whacked now. And all the old footage is different. A lot of the stories, like in my old timeline, there was this big spiel about how you couldn't release any liquids on any space shuttle or zero gravity or space station because it would spread all over and get everywhere and ruin the electronics and create havoc. And it was this big paranoia not to release liquids. All the time there was multiple spiel on that. Everybody knows you can't let any liquids loose in zero gravity because they'll go everywhere, right? But here they do it all the time. They squirt stuff out and they're like slurping on it with a straw right out of the air, and they make a big show, and then it wiggles around, and totally different. So that's just like one example, but that's the one that really sticks out for me because that was always a big no. The other one is if you open your helmet and deep space, you were like instantly dead. Well, it's not true anymore now. That's just an old wives' tale now, but. Yeah, it's weird, or would be if Mars wasn't an island off Canada. I don't know what Mars is. You know, I think the whole reality might be a big sim. So Mars can be anything because they'll just keep changing the programming. Eva, 2-hour mark. Actually, I'm doing good because I'm like going through these Mandelas, and you guys are bringing up a lot. I'm talking a ton. You know, the new diet is really helping me. I was really tired for a few days, but I think there was a shift recently, like 3-4 days ago maybe, and but it wasn't as bad. It wasn't nearly as bad as past shifts. And you can see I'm all like chipper now. I used to be here, I'd be like dying. NASA means to deceive in Hebrew, and the full name National Aeronautics Space Agency is 666 in gematria. Yeah, I don't know what to make about gematria, but I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it. I don't know. I do think that it's there's something funny about those whole NASA ISS things. Again, maybe it's just there to open the eyes, you know, one more conspiracy theory. There was a shift on Monday. Yeah, like when did I somewhere around then, Sunday, Monday, yeah. Futuristic fell asleep. Stupid flu. can always catch it on the replay anyways. Okay, so we got the baby one. I'm kind of coming down the home stretch here. Got that one. All right, this one. One thing this timeline loves is it comes up with a thing and then like, all right, this is kind of an example. All right. All right, let me see if this one will get me there. Yeah, this one's probably it. Okay, so ancient Peruvian mystery solved. I'm like, I never even heard of the Peruvian mystery to start with, but now it's solved. So I guess everybody's just clueless that they didn't know about these mysteries, but apparently everybody else but me knew about these mysteries, and so now it's solved from space. And this is kind of weird because I mean, it's not like we just recently in 2016 entered space. And if you look at these images, they're not even that high up. So, I mean, you wouldn't really have to go all the way to space to figure this out. But, so these well thingies, what are they calling those things? The Peruvian mystery of the puquois. Puquois, puquois. And this is interesting because it's in the Nazca desert, so it's by the Nazca lines. So it's not like, I mean, you've heard of the Nazca lines, would you never heard of this puquois? So there's these weird well thingies. So now they're saying there's this ancient mystery of the puquois. What were they there for? Then they went up into space. Let me see if I can find an article that explains it in less than 100 years here. The mystery centers around a series of carefully built spiraling holes called puquois, I don't know how to pronounce that, burrowed into the ground in the Nazca Desert of southern Peru. The peculiar formations could not be dated using traditional carbon dating techniques, and the Nazca people didn't leave behind any evidence of when they were first established. So archaeologists have spent centuries trying to figure out their purpose in vain. If you look at those things, they obviously look like wells. So I don't know why you wouldn't immediately go, wait, is that a well? It is now believed the primary aim of the puquois were to enable communities to survive in an area continually hit by drought. They were essentially a cutting-edge hydraulic system used to retrieve water from aquifers underground. Now, if you see like a well-looking thing, it seems to me like the first thing you'd wonder is if it was a well. Wouldn't you immediately go, wait, is that some kind of well or aquifer? What is clearly evident today is that the puquois system must have been more developed than it appears today, exploiting an inexhaustible water supply through the year. The puquois system contributed to an extensive agriculture of the valleys in one of the most arid places in the world. So they're basically saying the spiral holes work like a wind funnel, funneling wind into underground canals, winds which then forced water from deep subterranean reservoirs to the places it was needed. So that's pretty whacked. When I was a kid, the aqueducts of the Greeks and Romans were the big engineering marvel masterpiece of the universe. But now we have wind funneling underground canals forcing subterranean reservoirs in the desert, which is way, way cooler than just shuttling some water along an aqueduct. Any water left over was then stored in surface pools. So they have this whole system of subterranean water and surface pools and all this and that, and never heard a beep, and it was right there in Nazca the whole time. Building something in this scale would have required comprehensive understanding of the geology of the region as well as the annual variations in water supply. The puquois were the most ambitious hydraulic project in Nazca area, only in the Nazca area, really, and made water available for the whole year, not only for agriculture and irrigation, but also for domestic needs. Well, that's pretty studly. But no, there was no freaking way that there was these puquois in my old timeline. No, and right by the Nazca lines. There's an image of the thing. Remember seeing any of that? As I sure as heck don't. These are like ancient. Suck that water right out of the aquifer using wind power, underground wind power. That's freaking cool. Freaking cool. Actually, you know, I'm just looking at this image of the spider. I don't remember this hairpin turn here either. Guess I could go on forever about this stuff. Look at those. I've never seen those. I mean, I saw those in the last like 6-8 months, basically. Certainly not long ago. Looks like there's still water in that one, so why would it even be a mystery? Solves from space. I just don't see how you would need space to solve that problem. You've got something that looks like a well. You know there's an aquifer down there. There's water in some of them. And it's not like we haven't been in space for 20 years. I don't know. Anyway, I guess I'm really jaded today. All right. So speaking of crazy water canal systems, here is another one. I guess the ancient Romans and Greeks are just kind of old hack now compared to the ancient Nazcans and the ancient Hohokam Indians. So I don't know if you know Phoenix, Arizona, but supposedly, I mean, I kind of knew this, but I'm not a Phoenix expert, but it's full of canals. A lot of the desert regions in the Southwest have canals going through them. You got to get the water over there somewhere, somehow. Okay, so Phoenix is full of canals, but the story now is that the canals were originally dug by the Hohokam Indians, the Indians that lived there before a white man came, and supposedly they dug 250 miles of canals. The canals were started in about AD 200, so a little after Jesus' death, these canals were started, and then apparently the area, and it was also extensively irrigated and crops and all that, and that's why all these canals were there. And then they left. They abandoned the canal systems at some time. And the current theory is that the land became poor quality, and so they left. But then, so now the story is that the white man showed up and then dug out the canals again and kind of fixed them up and like reused the existing canals. So the story now is that the Hohokam Indians built all those canals originally, and we just sort of refurbished them and probably made them more extensive. But there's no way that there was this giant 250-mile irrigation system from Native Americans in my old timeline. There's no way. I mean, they barely even did any agriculture. It was basically they did kind of tend to existing orchards of like acorns and stuff. But this whole gigantic irrigation system business, I guess all the ancient peoples are going to have like giant tons of great tech in the current timeline. But there are Great Walls in India now that I've never heard of. Yes, that's been on, the Great Wall of India. Yeah, that's been on. It's a little bit older than me. People were kind of flipping out over that. There's Great Walls everywhere. Puquois. Are the guests for the conference all set? I'm curious to know who'll be speaking. Probably too early for the Dark Wolves conference to have that all sorted out. I don't think he haven't actually picked the hotel yet either, I don't think. Or at least it's not finalized. Yeah, it was a fun conference. Definitely. Hopefully you won't be having I'm a little worried that if you have a lot of conferences, you may have less people per conference. But I'm really ready to be wrong on that, so I had a very bad night. On Monday, my cat was crying. Now my cat is so moody. I mean, sometimes he's just a whiny big baby who's never satisfied. And then other times he's like the cutest thing. And he could definitely switch back and forth within 20 minutes. So it's kind of hard to tell a really moody animal when they're being moody because they're always so moody. Dark Wolf, shift 4 days ago, verified. Okay, good to know. Good to know. I definitely did weather that one better than a lot of them, but never heard of a Peruvian mystery. I mean, there was the Nazca lines mystery, but there wasn't, this, I don't know, what the swirly holes in the ground mystery? No, there was not that. Why wouldn't it still be working? Yeah, they're kind of indicating that there used to be like more of them or something. Maybe I would not be surprised if those spring up and spread out, and then eventually we'll hear that there's still some water in some of them, and they'd maybe just need a little drenching or trenching. You saw that one had water in it still, and this is supposed to be the desert, so. Whack like my sister's cooking. Yeah. Yeah, aqueducts were high tech. Yeah, they were the big deal. The teachers would talk about this amazing engineering marvel, and they would talk about the steady, I think it was 2% grade. I think, if I remember right, they had to have a 2% grade, and it was real even, and the amazing engineering of the time. And that's like nothing compared to all the stuff we have now. Aqueducts are ME for me. Really? They didn't. That was like about all I had was those aqueducts, the Greek Roman aqueducts. That was like it. Never seen the screwy wind tunnels. Those are cool. And if anybody hasn't yet seen, they've been around for a while, but check out the step wells from India, because those are so. I never get tired of the Indian step wells. Might as well just look at them again. Those are like super stud. And I didn't have these in the old timeline. So they're like these wells that they step down, but they're like a gajillion feet down, and they're architectural marvels. Epic, cool studliferousness. The first time I saw one of these, I thought it was just some kind of graphic design drill. It doesn't look real. Look at that. Those are all. And then I guess the well is like down there. I mean, we build all that for just to get to the water? Geez. I mean, look at that. It doesn't even look real. It's insanity. Ooh, there's a yellow one now. This yellow one wasn't there. 11 best step wells of India. There's new ones all the time. That's why I love looking. That one's probably one of the plainest ones, although I don't remember seeing that one originally. They just get more ridiculous every 5 minutes. And they'll start and they'll be half that size, and they'll just get longer and longer and longer, bigger and wider, and then, there's buildings inside them. There's steps plus buildings. People would have to have been good shape to carry their water up from down there. Look they're just bigger there's like, see, there's one man right there. So, this is like 8 stories high at least. It's a lot of schlepping of the water. Look at that. Those are like 1 story each. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Jaipur, Rajasthan. Total insanity. Got some pink at the top. No, red. I think that might be moss down there. I don't remember that one either. Just craziness. A lot of these I don't remember. Look at that. Look at that. The architecture that's springing up in India is just insanity. And it's all ancient. It's new ancient. Anyway, I could go on forever on those. Brenda Mitchell's just in. Welcome. Yeah, and then the pyramids are just like crappy old shadow of what they once were. We get the new stuff. It's like in with the new and out with the old. Yeah, I'm going to miss the old versions of the good old versions, but you know, some of the new stuff is really nice. I hope it'll be for the better, certainly. And now the Great Wall goes beneath the new Mongolia. That was never there. Yeah, I had a region of Mongolia, but China controlled it. It wasn't its own country. Easter Island story, yeah, it's now ridiculous. They never died out. It was never much of a mystery. They had a language. They left written language behind. We know what happened. The statues are totally different. They're not just giant heads anymore. They're all different shapes. They've got ears and a bunch more definition. They got belly buttons. They got hands. Pakistan used to be tiny. Kazakhstan used to be tiny. Now it's massive. Okay, anyways, I pretty much blasted through fairly fast considering I had a lot of stuff. Oh, you know, there's one last thing I wanted to talk about. I think I talked about last week how there was this new store that showed up at Quartzsite, Arizona. I swear it wasn't there until like 2 years ago when it was, to me, I thought it was brand new. And I was like, the shopping mecca just sprang up right here where I always go. And I never saw it before. And of course it's new. And I bought a bunch of stuff. It was like a gemstone store. It's a huge wholesale gemstone store. Like Eva's dream that she can buy a ton of stuff. It's super cheap. Bring it home and sell it on her website. Whoa! You know, the store of the universe for Eva. And I thought it was new 2 years ago. I was positive, absolutely positive. It's a huge store. It's right where I always go. I've shopped everywhere in that tiny town. I've been going there for like 2 decades. Showed up there 2 years ago. So then this year I'm like, score, I go back there. I'm going to totally buy more stuff. And I'm in there and I heard people talking and I realized that they were talking like this store has been here forever. And so I asked the workers, you know, how long has the store been there? And they're like, at least 15 years. They said the store was there 15 years. I'm like, no way that store was there 15 years. I mean, it was not there 15 years. And in that exact spot, in that exact building, with that exact giant parking lot, anyways, no, that was not. But yeah, good for me. I have a great store to buy more stuff for my store because the prices there are great. There and a lot of good stuff. Stuff I'd been having trouble finding, I found there. For the best rock bottom wholesale prices, really just some of the best prices. And so I'm like, super score, dum 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 dum. And so I was thinking, you know, a few years ago, the channel Mandela Affected, he was joking that they opened this coffee, like a to-go coffee shop really near his house in a terrible location for coffee shops. where you would not expect any coffee shops. But it was convenient for him, and he's like, he couldn't believe they opened it there. So he was joking that he, manifested it. So yeah, haha, kind of funny. But then somebody else was on Redcon saying how a really cool store open, like, has always been there in their town, and her husband was like, whoa, I can't believe this store was here this whole time and I didn't know. And it had to do with something with a hobby of his, so he thought it was like a kid in the candy store of this place that had been there the whole time, was his favorite hobby, and he didn't know, and he's of course accepted that he just didn't know. So I'm wondering, I mean, like, if you suddenly find a store or source, for your hobby, your business, whatever, that you think is new right near you or conveniently located, that you think is new, I suggest you just check and see how long that store has been there. Because unless you saw it being built or you saw the grand opening, I mean, if you didn't actually see it, just see how long it's been there. I mean, are you sure it's new? Especially if you really like it, just check. Just ask the workers, how long has this store been here? Because I'm kind of curious. I mean, are we able to manifest stuff we think is that we want? Are we, dragging this stuff in over here, or bringing it in? Like that gem store. The first time I went there, I just assumed it was new. It never even occurred to me it had been there 20 years. If I hadn't heard certain people saying certain things that made me think, and, if I hadn't been following the ME for a couple years now, I wouldn't have put the two together and went, I'm going to check. So if something opens that's new near you, unless you saw the grand opening, if something you really like, just check and see. Just check and see. UFO spaceman going to work. Ouch, that's no fun. All right, anyways, yes, it's time for me to head out. Sleepy time. Let's see if I'm still monetized. Dum dum dum. I still am. It's a miracle. Even though I said poopnado like 500 times, I'm still monetized. What do you know? It's a small miracle. It's been a while since I made it through an entire live stream without losing my monetization midstream. All right, let's see. Let's go back to the close down video area. You'd think one of these days I'd learn my way around YouTube. But not today. All right, people. Thank you, everybody, for coming. You had a lot of good Emmys today. It's been pretty shifty. It's been pretty strange. So think good thoughts, everybody. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.